I just think at some point you have to be above the craziness and let them spin and toil and look bad, and you take the high road. Scott, I don't know. Am I wrong? It's just, what do you think of that?
No, I think as a strategic matter, you raise exactly the point. I mean, the reason someone would tell this kind of a joke, the reason someone would fabricate this kind of a story is because they're trying to attract attention. And when you elevate it to the extent that it's been elevated in our public discourse, we've obviously been discussing it now for days and days and days and days and days, this is what they want. And you know, the idea that we're going to strip someone of their committee hearings, I mean, do we think Lauren Boebert wakes up every day desperate to get over to a committee meeting? I mean, of course not. And so this is no punishment for them. This is the desired outcome. So I think, actually, Don, you raised the exact correct strategic point, which is when you deprive an attention hound of oxygen, you deprive them of the attention that they want, that's their oxygen, it actually is probably a smarter play.
Yeah, that's what I do.
It might be smart, you see, but it might be smarter, but and we did this with Donald Trump, right? We faced this same question with Donald Trump for 4 years, and we followed up on all the offensive, ridiculous, outrageous things he said, because not doing so is normalizing it. And there is no way that we can stay quiet in the face of racism. If this was, listen, if she was saying these things about Latinos, I'd be outraged, and I would want people to be talking about it.
But this is the thing, though. I think that I'm not sure that the Democrats are the ones who should be responding. It should be on the Republican lead. Look, Dan Crenshaw, it should be on Republicans. This is Dan Crenshaw. He spoke out about what's going on in his party. Listen.
There's two types of members of Congress. There's performance artists, and there's legislators. Now, the performance artists are the ones that get all the attention. They're the ones you think are more conservative because they know how to say slogans real well. They know how to recite the lines that they know that our voters want to hear. We have grifters in our midst.
That's who the pressure should be put on to speak up. Now, I'm not necessarily sure that it actually helps Democrats to you know, lie down to get fleas. Let's put it that way. Do you see my point, Scott?
Yeah, look, I think Dan, in that specific case, Representative Crenshaw, I should say, was responding to a specific issue where they were voting on a bill, and some of the people he was commenting on were circulating this, you know, sort of this crazy idea that there was something in the bill that really wasn't in the bill. And I think he was irritated with it, you know, the idea that he would go and vote, you know, away and have it described by people in his own conference in a way that just wasn't true. And it's always the same people. And so he was bold enough, and I think courageous enough to say, this is BS. And by the way, he has credibility, not just as a Republican and as a conservative, but as someone who's sacrificed and served this country. And so I was grateful that Dan Crenshaw did that, because his unique voice is exactly the kind that could potentially put a stop to this. But look, there's always going to be a market for people who are in the performance business rather than being in the member of Congress business.
Same sentiment, Anna, though, even if we may have been talking about something specifically and an idea of something that wasn't true and wasn't there. That's what we're talking about, the big lie and so on, right? So it's the same sentiment.
Right, and listen, I think it's great that there's a voice like Dan Crenshaw saying that, or Liz Cheney. These are people who nobody can accuse of being rhinos, of not being conservative enough. These are people who've got a record of service. And I also think donors need to speak up. If you're a Republican donor who is unhappy with this, you need to speak up. If you are a Republican former elected official, if you're a former president, if you're a former governor who feels offended by the way that where the party is going and this lack of moral leadership, you need to speak up. I think too many people have stayed quiet for thinking this too shall pass, and for fear of being in the crosshairs. And it's enough. This is, you know, the question for the Republican Party is just how low can you go? This cannot be a party that is the slogan for limbo rock. Yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, how low can they go? They have no bottom. And they use it then to fundraise, and it's getting worse and worse, and it affects society. It affects all of us. Yesterday, I was at the funeral of Carrie Meek, former Congresswoman Carrie Meek, lived to be 95 years old, first African-American woman elected from Florida after Reconstruction.
I saw it on your social
There were Republicans sitting there.
Yeah.
Republican colleagues of her, Lincoln Diaz-Balart was one of the people who spoke poignantly, because it used to not be this way. It actually used to be where there was some respect for the institution, and people didn't go there to troll each other on Twitter or offend each other from the floor of the House.
Look, all I'm saying is that at some point, you have to be above it. And you have to take the high road, and you have to lead by example. And I'm not sure if it is, I'm just saying, I could be wrong. I'm not sure if it is responding to every single idiotic thing that someone like Lauren Boebert or Matt Gaetz or whomever says in the party. I think a better strategy is to push the leaders of the party to do something about it. Tell them that they need to do something about the folks in their party rather than giving it.
Don, your point on this, Don, that they are desirous of the so-called establishment or the leadership or the swamp or whatever. They are desirous of a situation where that group comes down on them. And so when you respond to everything they do, this is the desired outcome. And so the demand for leaders to come down on people like this, that's what they want, and then the cycle starts over again, and then we have the same conversation again. So I think you're onto something.
I hear you guys, but I gotta tell you,
because I think you're onto it.